In 1758, Dr. Chauvel from Orange in the French country.
Orange.
Orange.
Okay, cool.
I first read it as like, he's from Orange? That's cool. I didn't know Orange even existed in 1758. For our international listeners, that's a small town in rural New South Wales, and it's delightful wines. But this is not about that place. This is, 1758. Dr. Chauvel. He was called to Caderousse, which is a small town near his home, to attend
another small French town. Okay, two small French towns. Keep them in your mind from 1758. I got it.
Yeah, I mean, you've probably heard of them already. Anyway,
I'm just imagining. This is any small French town and another any small French town.
Yeah, you've been there. That's exactly right. In the town, so he turns up at Caderousse.
Town 1 or town 2?
There's a town 2, Caderousse. This is one near Orange. After which the duck was named, I'm sure. It's nothing to do with the flavour, it's the town. He meets the sick wife's man in the doorway of their house.
Okay.
And she said, she told the doctor about the furious lust of her husband who had ridden her 40 times in one night.
Okay.
Yeah. It's what you heard.
Okay. It's not the common language that you get from 1758, the furious lust. No, I mean, no. I know Jane Austen had a couple of entendres, and Shakespeare liked his entendres too. But yes. The furious lust of my husband who has ridden me 40 times in one night.
40 times in one night. Also, his private parts were always swollen.
Well, after or before?
I think always, before, during, and after. So currently permanently swollen. Dr. Chauvel, being a doctor, said, I'm going to investigate this.
Good on Dr. Chauvel, thank you.
No, he's no slouch. He's a professional. So he investigates. So it turned out the husband had been at hospital recently, just before, because he had an intense fever. And he was given a drink of some sort, a potion or a concoction. And it seems that his evil lusts came from this beverage, or one very similar to the one that was given to him by, it says a woman, I assume a nurse or something, at the hospital. So after he drank it, he fell into such a frenzy that other people had to tie him up as if he was possessed by the devil. So while Dr. Chauvel was still there, a priest came along to exorcise the poor man. And the man himself was actually basically left and saying, leave me alone, I just want to die.
Okay.
So he was begging to die. Anyway, so the doctor left, and apparently it seems the woman left too. She wrapped him in a damp sheet covered in water and vinegar, and they buggered off until the following day.
Was there a theory behind the water and vinegar damp sheet?
Hell yeah.
So you got a raging boner and it really hurts and you have furious lusts.
Furious lusts,
A damp sheet of water and vinegar.
After your exorcism, they're not quacks. They did something.
Okay. All right.
On the return the next day, apparently the patient's furious lust had abated, but that was only because he was dead. That'll do it.
Upsides and downsides, yes.
I know, pros and cons, swings and roundabouts. From Chauvel, the doctor's description, it was unclear whether he was murdered, mutilated after death, or perhaps died during a bizarre act of autofellatio.
Okay, cool.
Cool. Welcome, William.
Cool.
It turns out, and this is a quote, he was dead, as stiff as a corpse, in his gaping mouth, with teeth bared, they found his gangrenous penis.
Gangrenous.
Gangrenous penis.
And can I just check? Is he curved over? And
I couldn't get that detail. The internet records of 1758 are a little sketchy. I assume so, but they were.
You would have written that down. Like if you were the doctor and you're doing the coroner's report, you would say he had managed to bend down and bite upon his gangrenous penis versus in his mouth.
The engreened member was in his gaping maw. So the question is, what happened to the man? It seems he may have suffered from an overdose of the key ingredient in a very popular aphrodisiac.
Welcome to the Wholesome Show, the science and how the hell have we not done this topic already podcast for people who sit up the back of the classroom.
In which we ask the questions. I'm thinking right now, you're begging we won't.
I'm Will Grant.
I'm Dr. RG, the Latvian stallion Lamberts, as I'm known around the traps.
Don't say that in this episode. Whatever this episode is going to go, no one wants to hear about stallions. It's not helping.
Horses barely feature in this episode.
Good. The Wholesome Show is brought to you by the Australian National Centre for the Public
Autofellatio.
Awareness of Science.
Public awareness of autoscience. Yeah.
For all of your science communication needs from Go to Woe.
Indeed, and some of the needs you didn't know you even had.
Yeah.
Probably this episode.
Yeah, look, they're a sponsor, so what would they want? What sort of science communication needs? I don't know, like if you've got like some bad science and you need to think about how you can talk about your bad science.
This is excellent science. I'm gonna tell you about excellent science.
If you have accidentally given people some raging Viagra that causes all of those side effects, we can't solve that for you.
No.
But we'd love to explore how audiences
we can help you
feel
understand
about
it
that.
better.
Yeah, exactly. How you and audiences feel about that.
Yeah, we can help you with that. We can social science the shit out of this for you. Don't you worry about that. That's what we're good for.
There you go.
So get comfy, Will, or rather get ready to not be comfy.
I am both. I am both right now. Uncomfy and comfy.
Yeah, you seem pretty happy with the opening story. I'm not going to lie. I saw that story and went, just like you, how the hell have I not done this episode before? This is me, bodface, underlined, italic. How the hell has he not done this? So, aphrodisiacs, they've been around for millennia in one form or another.
Working aphrodisiacs, all
Yes.
Okay.
Let's
I assume
say-
you're going to go into that.
Let's say the notion and the practice of aphrodisiacal compounds, behaviors, objects.
Stuff what makes you want to get on the job.
Do the thing, slap the workbench and then go for it.
How many euphemisms can we get into this podcast? Listener, can you count for us? See how many euphemisms we can get in for on the job, solving the problem, going to town.
Having a walk around the neighborhood. I don't know if that even is one.
It is now. If you say it in the right tone, anything is a euphemism. Business time.
It's true. You want to go and shoot some hoops? Like, yeah, I do. Hungry for some waffles? This is nothing you can't. You're right.
I think we're up to 7 right now. I'm not counting. Listener, you give me the number.
Yeah, 7's not bad. I'm only up to my second bullet point. So anyway, many things have been considered aphrodisiacal in some way. So porno pictures, of course.
That's an obvious one.
Yeah, that's pretty clear. Odors.
But they didn't have them until they got the internet. So
yeah, they did. They had the what is it? The curious French lithographs.
Or they made
and
the whole
wood carvings.
Or the whole temple in India where you carve all of the porn. But you have to journey thousands of miles to get to the temple of porn. So.
From France, definitely. From here, indeed, as well.
And if you lived right next door, you've got it all the time. But yeah, from many places, it was thousands.
You take it
of
for
miles.
granted.
Look at me with my
odors,
geography.
noises, ether was used as an aphrodisiac.
Hang on, so slow down. You said odors and noises.
Yeah, not together, or maybe together.
Which odors and which noises?
Look, specifically, I don't have a list of odors for you, but I'd invite you to offer your own suggestions. I don't want to, limit you, man.
Okay, all right.
Sure, if you'd like to. Noises, I assume moaning and barking.
All right.
Ether has been considered an aphrodisiac at times, which I don't understand. I mean, knocking someone out, not quite how I run. Inflatable dolls, of course. Electric belts. Whips.
Yes.
All aphrodisiacs. And then, of course, like the juice that we just heard about, the stuff you eat, ingest or otherwise. So there's edible love potions or filtres, which are love and lust potions. Filtres, that's a Philtres.
Filtres.
So they're wildly diverse and they have all kinds of ingredients. You might see testicles, cannabis, rhinoceros horn, blood, mandrake root, skinks, strychnine.
Whose testicles?
Yeah, well, it's up to you, really. I mean, whoever's prepared to hand them over, I suppose. It doesn't have to be human.
Okay.
But not testicular material. That's
okay, sure. I get the theory. I get the theory that you would go grind up a testicle and I will want to go down to Party Town.
Yep, and stay there for a couple of features. So the term we're using today is supposed to be basically, we really talk about an aphrodisiac as inspiring lust, but in earlier days, it's often been used to also mean curing impotence or infertility, which are now, of course, for us separate kind of areas of medicine.
Okay, yeah.
They used to all sort of munge together.
Yeah, I still would have overlapped. Like if someone says an aphrodisiac, it would be either solving the physiological or the mental desire for the love.
Well, you would, but see, that's because you're an innocent and you didn't know about the history.
Yeah, no, now I do. Your innocence
we talk
physiologically and lust ways different.
Yeah. So until recently, there was very little distinction between sexual desire and sexual function. They always seem to blur together. And there are a lot of theories, I think, Freud and around that era. Basically, if the woman climaxes, she's more likely to get pregnant and stuff like this. This isn't about that.
Is that not true?
Oh yeah, if a woman doesn't have an orgasm, she'll never get pregnant.
I didn't say that.
No, you didn't. I'm helping you.
We were talking about likelihoods of getting pregnant. I just did think.
Yeah.
Just can you confirm?
There are stories about that, or there have been.
Two guys. Right. I'm feeling like there's two guys right now, and I feel some other voices might help at this point. But anyway, that's cool. Move on.
What female voices would want to be in here right now?
Yeah, none of them. No. Sorry, listener.
They're smarter than us. So a lack of lust or potency or fertility would have often had a common cure, some kind of aphrodisiac. So Galen, that ancient Roman physician, who we've all studied, he was talking about foods working as aphrodisiacs, particularly if they were warm and moist or windy.
Thank you, Galen.
Yeah, and windy meant they produced flatulence.
Well,
I know. I mean, I'm feeling a bit warmed up right now myself.
Baked beans make you toot. The more I don't know.
Musical fruit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But then where's the and then you want to have sex?
Well, here's the theory. According to a 16th century writer, at least, the flatulence or the windy stuff would put an insensible pollution into you, and that would inflate the penis to cause it to go erect. So basically, gassy foods made you get your stuff on for a boy. I know. I don't think that's true. I've had gas once, and one of the side effects was not insatiable desire to perform.
I do got to say, there's going to be a lot of in this episode, so that's my reaction to many things.
Oh yeah, you're gonna wear out your. So things that gave you gas, basically, particularly spices, pepper, they were considered important aphrodisiacs with this sort of attitude. Excellent. Carrots, asparagus, stuff like this as well for some reason.
Because they're
science? No.
They look like penises, like carrots.
There's a bit of that.
It's
shaped like a dick. It's going to make your dick work.
It's going to be a hard phallic thing. Let's eat some hard phallic things. Will become of the cool.
Yeah, if you want to get wood, you got to eat wood, man. That's what they've always said. I think that was Shakespeare. So St. Thomas Aquinas wrote a bit about aphrodisiacs in the 13th century, as all good saints do. He was like Galen. He thought aphrodisiacal foods could produce, quote, vital spirit. And meat at the time was the hardest of foods, therefore an aphrodisiac, as was wine,
Yeah, okay. It's not rocket science there. So get
yes.
drunk and have a nice meal, and you'll want to get it on afterwards. Okay.
Cool. And be more capable of doing so.
Yeah. Not quite guaranteed, but anyway.
Ish, yeah. And also relating to what you were saying about if it's shaped like a dick and it's food, eat it. No, it's good for your dick. I think that's how you put it. That's also referred to as the arcane philosophy of the doctrine of signatures. So
what?
I don't know why. It's a magical
language.
Okay. So mandrake root, for example, was eaten as an aphrodisiac and cure for female infertility because the forked root looked a lot like a woman's thighs going up to her juncture of
thighs, thigh juncture. Where the vagina is. Yeah.
Oysters for a long time have been thought of that in part because maybe they resemble female genitals, and I've got to say, okay.
Well, oysters are helpful for male problems or female problems in this male desires.
I'm thinking yes.
Okay, cool. I just want to know. I mean, how much are the ancients solving desires of men or women here?
Well, I think you know which way that runs, but it is both. But obviously, it's more about the dude. More commonly about the dude, but not only, depending on which country you're in. And
clearly there's going to be, there clearly is a long historical tradition of fertility, which may not be overlapping 100% with desire for funky town.
Yes. I just want to impregnate you, not make you happy.
Yeah, different things.
We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Although what I have heard about oysters, I mean, zinc is supposed to be good for your blood supply and all that sort of stuff, so high zinc.
I just got to confess at this point, I bloody love oysters.
They're delicious.
I'm the terrible person that if there's oysters, I'm like, screw you,
all of those.
I just want them all. I love them so much. I don't know why I love them so much because they're a dumb thing and you don't even taste them very much.
No, they make no sense and they're delicious.
Just wildly delicious.
I agree. I hated them until one day I was at a friend's wedding 100 years ago and I ate some and went, I get it.
Yeah.
These are fantastic. And from that point forward, love them.
Yeah. Have you
Potatoes
kept
were considered an aphrodisiac, in fact, at times.
potatoes? Like of
Potatoes.
all the things that you were going to think, what's going to make you want to get it on?
A spud.
I would have guessed potato would be the opposite end of the spectrum. Like,
You would, wouldn't you?
I don't mind
Like-
potato. I think potato does some wonderful things in cooking. It's great fun. Who doesn't like a potato chip? Who doesn't like mashed potato? Who doesn't like a baked potato, roast potato?
All of it.
Other things you do with potato, like potato skins. Anyway.
So the argument for that was probably they were popular as an aphrodisiac in Europe, probably because at the time they were a rare delicacy.
Okay.
And when they came over from the Americas, so it's like it's rare. It's got to be.
I just
got to
don't,
make you
I just
horny.
don't think about being horny with mashed potato. Like I'm sorry.
No.
There's no doesn't overlap.
It's like
in my
I'm
mind.
hoping to get my lady friend in the mood. I'm going to give her sausages and mashed potatoes with an oyster crumble. I don't know.
Stop it.
So Aphrodite, the Greek goddess of love, was supposed to have held sparrows to be sacred, and the ancient Greeks also thought sparrows were particularly lustful birds. And so, because of these associations, Europeans used to eat sparrows, particularly their brains, as aphrodisiacs. I don't get it.
Sparrow's brains.
Sparrow's brains.
Sparrow's brains. I love the ancients. I love. Well, okay, maybe this is Europeans or maybe this is ancients. I don't know, but the willingness to eat tiny animals that are not normally eaten. And I get we have an industrial farming system that has probably made us not quite recognize all the things that we could eat. But Jesus Christ, when you go, okay, not only the sparrow, but I'm going to go down to just the brain. Just the brain.
I've got a teaspoon. I'm going to need something much smaller.
Yeah, what is it? What is it? Like a small, like a current-sized object, and you just go.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. And apparently that works. So, but a woman called Paolo Sandroni she was a neurologist at the Mayo Clinic. She did a review of a bunch of supposed aphrodisiacs in clinical autonomic research. It was published, one of our faves.
Yeah.
And some people propose coffee as one. And she said, look, sure, because every time you have an excitation of the nerves, you probably have the effect of disinhibition. So your nerves get fired up, you might lose a bit of inhibition. I drink coffee. It doesn't affect me that way.
Wrong time of day. For me, it's like I'm out on the town when I'm having my coffee. And sadly, my overlap with out on the town and out on the town is not enough. So
yeah, I'm with you. Out in the town and going to town, not
exactly.
the same for you.
Exactly. But, I have my coffee in the morning when I'm out meeting colleagues. Perhaps that might be.
Oh, I know. I remember. It was never pretty.
In the before times.
In the before times.
Yeah.
So she checked out caffeine. She said, look, I think more in general, it's the same way that cocaine, amphetamines and stuff, because they stimulate the nervous system, maybe they have some effect, but they're not specific to sexual desire. And she also looked at one of my favorite substances, ambergris, which comes from the guts of whales and is used in perfumes.
In particular, a sperm whale from the
and it's not
spermaceti.
vomit, apparently. Apparently, it's pretty similar to their shit, but it's small enough that it doesn't come out through the shit hole, so it comes out the mouth. Anyway, I'm hearing aphrodisiac. The moment you hear that, you go like, yep. I know.
So really?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was vomit, but it's not. It's worse.
But it's coming out the mouth. It's not shit. I mean, by definition, I want to quibble with anyone that says my definition of shit is it has to come out the bumhole. So it's.
Look, I think we could get right. I mean, we should do a whole episode on that. We should invite people in. We should do a vox pop.
I'm reading Moby Dick at the moment, and Moby Dick's bizarre because it's a whole story about Ahab, and he's like, I must kill the white whale. But then there are literally chapters on end where Herman Melville, the writer, is just going, I'm going to go full on science about whales here in his best 19th century way, where he knew like 4% of science about whales, and he's just speculating on stuff like this.
More than I know.
Yeah, and so there's I'm sure the ambergris chapter is coming up, and I'm going to check if Herman Melville got it right or wrong.
It's just the idea that you go, well, I've seen that it's kind of vomit poo from a whale. Let's make perfumes and or eat it for libido and testosterone. So they do claim in animal studies, this review said it increased levels of testosterone in the blood in animals. So there could be some effect. Mm-hmm. But I'd get an increase too. My urge to throw up would become extremely testosterone fueled.
Yeah, I think the overlap on something that is strong enough and interesting flavor enough for a perfume and actually eating it, I get like a sliver of it, something tiny, but I don't want to eat a lot of that.
No, it's like people who eat lavender. Lavender's a smell, not a flavor. I'm sorry.
It's quite nice.
It's not for food. It's not for food.
It's quite nice. In the right amount.
Well, I got hurt by a lavender as a child, so I never got over it. But look, the husband in our opening story, what he suffered from was none of these things.
Oh.
He appeared to have suffered from an overdose of cantharidine. It's an aphrodisiac derived from insects.
Oh, really? Okay.
So what we're going to do now is get into some sexual entomology.
Of course, that's what I was thinking you were going to do.
You knew this was going to go there, right? No question. So sexual entomology, it's been hanging around all over the world for a long time, or rather the practice of using insects and their byproducts. So people may eat it. They may rub insect byproducts on their bodies. They also use them as charms.
Eat what?
Products from insects, all kinds. Okay. The one that poisoned our French chap, the cantharidine, there's so many different spellings. It's the magical ingredient that you actually find in Spanish fly, which is the most famous of all insect aphrodisiacs. And I'm going to get to that later. Spanish fly is the big one. But there are others first. I mean, there are so many others. So the underlying reasons for deciding a given insect is associated with some kind of physical sexual behavior, there are many reasons for it. And there seems to be ideas all over the world. So in India, you've got queen termites, highly desirable aphrodisiacs, probably because they have extraordinary procreative capacity. Yeah. They can belt out the babies. So eat a queen termite.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Yeah, you can see the connection. Malaysia and Singapore, giant water bugs are consumed as aphrodisiacs, apparently because the bugs insert their beak-like mouthparts into their prey's cloaca. Now, I don't know why that makes them an aphrodisiac. I mean, don't get me wrong. When I hear that, I'd really want to hear more. But really, beak-like mouthparts go into their prey's cloaca.
Look, fine. I mean, the insects do weird things. All animals do weird things, but sure. I don't want to do that, but sure.
No, you don't. Morocco, an aphrodisiac recipe calls for bed bugs and egg yolks. Yummy.
No, I'm not loving the bed bugs and egg yolks.
Can you imagine that? Eat this. No. It'll make you. I don't care what.
No, but I kind of believe, like, when you go to a wishing well and people are throwing 5 cents into the wishing well. I don't believe in wishing wells. I don't believe there's any God out there that is watching over that wishing well and saying, here's your wish. But if you throw 5 cents in, that's insulting to both of us. Like, whether you believe or don't believe, it's like you're not doing anything. Throw in something that you care, So I think,
like a child or a lump of gold.
Oh, exactly. Something that really means something to you. And I think the same thing with an aphrodisiac here. You can't just go, and what's a great aphrodisiac? A rolled oat. And it's like,
no. These chips, I'm eating them anyway, but fuck yeah.
It's not enough. No, you've got to make it gross and weird. You got to go, okay, get eye of newt, toe of frog, see what you can do with that. Like,
whale poo vomit, and boom.
Then you know what you have to do? You don't just eat it. You have to, you know where you got to put it. I'm not telling you because you already know. You just imagine. No, not there. You imagine where you've got to put it. That's where you've got to put it.
I'm thinking under the eyelid.
No, not right either.
I'm going to come back. You quiz me again at the end. I reckon I'll get there. Ants have been really quite popular as aphrodisiacs for a while. So there's an old text called the Geneanthropoeia from 1642. It's on sex and anatomy by Johannes Benedict Sinebaldus. And he said you mix dry ants with oil. That's a sexual stimulant, of course.
Is this a rubbing
in 1745 in a medical dictionary, Dr. R. James kind of thought that was pretty cool. And he said, look, you add formic acid, which I think you get off ants when they sort of sting you. And you apply that topically, and it can cause sexual excitement due to consequent dermal irritation and burning.
Cool. Topically, where is he saying you put the formic acid? Yeah, or the vagina? Are we?
Look, they don't care about women back then. It was about making sure the man was doing it. But yes, you could potentially rub it on the labia minora or majora, and I think that would be awful.
None of this is great. I'm just checking if he was equal opportunity in his rubbing of the formic acid on.
It wasn't clear, and to be fair, I haven't read that whole book yet. There was one, an American love potion. I assume traditional or indigenous American, involves ants consuming a live frog, and then you eat the bones that are left over, and somehow that makes you sex better. So
I think if you
don't eat the ants though, they're not revolting.
If you're consuming a live frog, it has the bones in it.
No, the frog has to be eaten alive by the ants, and then you eat the bones.
Oh,
you idiot! It's obvious when you think about it. Obvious.
Sure.
I mean, put two and two together and
Sure.
come up with a pineapple. It makes sense.
And look, I get it. I get this is a realm in which a lot of traditional forms of magic really, really come about. Yeah, this is something that a lot of people have cared about for a long time. They're like, I have some issues with making the babies, or at least having the fun times, and so I'm going to use some sort of magic. So let's look at something around us that we might do something weird to.
Yeah.
And then rub it on ourselves.
That zucchini looks like a dick. I'm going to rub it on mine. What do you know? I've got zucchini on my dick. Chinese medicine was good at it. They've had all kinds of things. Scale insect excretions and stink bugs were considered aphrodisiacs. I do not know why.
Stink bugs.
Yeah. Mantis egg cases apparently could prevent a bunch of problems like nocturnal emissions, premature ejaculation, and male weakness and impotence. So mantis eggs. I think you ate them.
I just got to
You
know.
no longer either have no hard-on, or you stop ejaculating in bed.
The wet dreams.
Dreams.
The nocturnal emissions that I still, there's an episode there I just wanted to do for you one day. But I do wonder, at what point do nocturnal emissions become so bad that you're like, I'm going to go to the village elder and say, look, can you give me something for...
I keep coming in my sleep. What do I do?
This is happening so much.
Ignore it? Oh, no, that can happen. It can get to a point. Spermatorrhea, I think it's called. I'll describe that problem later.
Oh my God.
It's delightful.
Oh my God.
Ash from hornets or wasps' nests in China, this was mixed with water or wine and ingested or applied to the penis for stimulation, erectile dysfunction, and more plentiful sperm production.
So if you go to a doctor now and the doctor is thinking, okay, for whatever condition you've got, whether it's infertility, impotence, or lack of sexual desire, or something totally different, and they say, okay, you've got two options with your application of the medicine. So either you can eat the medicine, or you can apply it to the head of your penis, or to your special bits of the vagina.
Yes.
I'm not thinking great things about that doctor. I feel.
And also, though, which one do you go with? Assuming you trust the doctor, do you eat it or do you rub it? And I've got to say, maybe I'm a prude, but I'm more likely to eat it than put it on my old champ.
But then maybe they're saying, look, okay, so this says 10% efficacy if you eat it, but if you rub it, we're getting up to 11%. So
even thinking about it makes it better. Thinking about rubbing it on, or the act thereof. There are certain silkworms, if they are white due to the infection of a particular bug, they were used to soothe scrotal irritation. Mm-hmm. But the other kinds of these male silkworms would increase, this is one of my favorite words, penile turgidity. I love turgid as a description.
Indeed. This
Tumescence and turgidity are both very funny words for me.
This is the affliction of romance novelists.
Hawk moth caterpillars, when combined with Rebmania root, produced sizable erections, and possibly my favorite, cockroaches eaten to prevent sterility.
I do like. Okay, so what were these ones for the sizable erections? And I assume in the apothecary's cabinet there was the potions for sizable erections and some for just regular erections.
Yeah.
So it suggests to me that someone might come in and say, look, doc, I got a problem. I'm not. Can I have something? And they're like, okay, do you want? What do you
want? Are you looking for small, medium, or large? I mean, just work with me here. What are we talking? I know that for that you want a cockroach and a mantis egg. You mix it with some egg yolk, and you strap it to your.
And maybe he's saying, okay, it's $100 for the large and $20 for the small, and you're like,
and how long do you want it to last too?
Right,
it's huge, but you got 3 seconds. Oh my God, it's gone.
How have you not done this topic before?
I know. I can't believe it either. It's because I read some great stories. The Kama Sutra, obviously, an Indian erotic classic literature that talks about all kinds of things, and it talks a lot about aphrodisiacs, as you'd expect. Yes. Honey is a common ingredient in Indian erotic recipes, but as a rule, they weren't into insects because they were an inferior race, an inferior species.
Oh, okay.
So, with the karmic, not the, the caste, et cetera, insects right down there. Okay. But there is one thing, apparently, at least in the Kama Sutra, that talks about using insects to cause permanent penis enlargement. And men would rub bristles from certain arboreal insects on their phalluses, then massage the organs with oil for 10 days. After reapplying the insect bristles, the penis would swell in size. Now, I'm thinking if you're rubbing bristles on your champ,
Yes.
there might be swelling, but I don't think it's the desirable swelling.
No, it's really not.
No.
And no one wants permanent.
No. Oh, it's a priapism, I believe
Yes,
it's called.
priapism.
And you don't want it.
Are you not going to cover priapism in this?
Oh, we're going to get to that.
Okay, good.
Of course we're going to get to that.
Because
I would not let you down, man. I know you're only here to learn. So let's get into Spanish fly. This is why we're really here. This is all about, let's talk about Spanish fly, because Spanish fly, it's in the common vernacular. It's considered to be this, legendary and mythical thing that's always, it's like the go-to aphrodisiac. So there's some science behind it first. First, it's not a fly, and it's not only Spanish. So there's a good start. It's actually a beetle.
This is wildly inaccurate.
I know.
I know. I'm deeply offended. Okay, it's a beetle.
It's a beetle. And they tend to be called generically blister beetles, or the substance that comes from them, cantharidin, which probably killed our mate at the beginning. So it's a crystalline substance that is synthesized particularly by these kinds of beetles. Coleopatra, melody, blah, blah. They're a common species. They're often found in Spain, but also in many other places in the world. So yeah, it's a beetle. It's not a fly. It's not only found in Spain.
And it has
a lot of them.
And it has a botanical name.
It has very many, like the phylum, species, subphylum, blah, blah, is quite spectacular. It's like
no one
being
cares.
back in Latin class in
no
1980. I didn't like it. It's funny though. So there are at least 1,500 species of beetles that produce cantharidin. Cantharidin. We'll call it cantharidin. And they're all kinds of multicolors, often quite spectacular, because this stuff can be fairly poisonous and dangerous. They're probably 2 or 3 centimeters long. They don't bite or sting, so they don't use this stuff to attack in any sense. So the male beetle synthesizes it as a defense mechanism, and the female acquires it as a, quote, copulatory gift from her mate. So she'll coat the eggs in it to protect them. So after the eggs come out.
Cool.
Yeah, coated in this.
That sounds really cool. I mean, I want to look up some pictures of that. Are you going to show me some pictures later?
I don't have the pictures because I'm not in my normal abode and therefore no printer.
Oh, damn. Well, I'll look.
Let me share my screen. How bad could it be? Any of my students, if you happen to be listening, are sitting there going, "Oh God, it takes him an hour." Grandpa can't use the computer again.
It's even glowing. The share screen button is glowing.
Yeah, but then I grabbed the wrong package. It's terrible. It's not quite as bad. But anyway, so apparently often though these beetles or variations of them will swarm in alfalfa fields next to weedy areas, and so especially where there's a lot of grasshopper eggs because they feed on them. So they'll be found all over places like alfalfa. They'll be found around evergreen shrubs and hedges, olives, ash and elder trees. So they can be quite prolific in the right place. It was first, the thing itself, so getting to the science bit, cantharidin was first isolated as an oil in 1812. So it's been derived out of the critter that had been used many times in the past. And if you apply it to your skin, it's a really strong irritant. So it readily enters the skin and it causes redness, intense burning, and blisters. I know, doesn't this make you think sex?
I kind of get where this why it might be happening this way. Yeah. Intense irritant.
Yeah, that's half of us because I'm like when I hear that, what does it do? Cool, I'm going to put it on my dick then.
Yeah, but just a little bit. Like that, maybe they're homeopathic. They're just a little bit, and you get the right amount of irritation, and that's when the action happens.
Let me tell you, when I get to dosages, you really want to be homeopathic with this stuff. Yeah. Like you really do. So if you actually consume it, mucous membranes begin to corrode. You get blistering and hemorrhages. Skin cells or epithelial cells will change. You may have trouble swallowing, nausea, trouble peeing, or if you do pee, you probably have blood in your urine. Cool. You could get bladder lesions, severe colic, intestinal inflammation and pain, and vaginal and rectal inflammation. It's all saying hot night in the big city to me.
Well, I was going to say, now tell us the side effects because they all sound great.
I know. Whatever you kink, it's right there in that list. You can get all kinds of organ and physiological damage. So skin, heart, kidneys, intestines, liver, spleen, lungs, central nervous system can all be damaged. And extreme conditions can include renal failure, intravascular coagulation. So, yeah, your blood coagulates in place. Internal hemorrhages, go the reverse. Seizures, spontaneous abortion, pulmonary collapse, myocardial degeneration, cardiac disturbance, and, of course, coma and or death. It's strong. And there are conflicting reports, but it seems the dosage that will
I,
cause a human death is somewhere between 10 and 80 micrograms.
Okay, but you listed a whole bunch of side effects there. Could cause death. That sounds bad. You didn't you didn't list could cause you to bite off your own dick and then die.
No.
I just
I think that might be very specific. Maybe that interacted with his personality. Maybe he was going there anyway. He just did it with more gusto.
takes a lot.
I don't know. I mean, unfortunately, I don't know anything more about our poor gangrenous dick and mouth gentleman. I'd love to know more about him, but that's all I could find, other than it was most likely essentially Spanish fly that pushed him. And the science it looks like that, but it's been used for non-aphrodisiacal reasons. So it's not just about the trousers. Often it was, like many things, seen as a medical cure-all. Hippocrates advised patients with dropsy, which always cracks me up because dropsy sounds cute.
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah, but it's not. So he'd advise patients with dropsy to fast and then swallow 3 Cantharides beetles without their head, feet, and wings in water. That sounds to me, from what I've read, like a terrible idea, because apparently every part of the body could contain cantharidine substance.
Yeah, okay. All right.
So you'd certainly have an effect.
Well, look, they probably erred on the side of let's make sure we're going to get something back in those days, because they didn't have really strong dosage ideas, and just make sure something happens.
It's like, well, I took this doctor and at least something happened.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's what they were going for. I died,
something.
or I massively convulsed. I bit my own dick off. But at least something happened. I don't want a medication that is just another bloody placebo where nothing happens.
Yeah, I'm sick of being fooled. A lot of doctors in the olden days, 11th century-ish, etc., used this sort of substance for earache, abscesses, eyesight issues, coughs, ulcers, hypochondria, diarrhea, nausea, and mania.
Yeah.
Which I find intriguing. A Greek physician in the 6th century tried to treat gout with it. It also been used for bladder stones, boils, infectious fevers, ringworm, gonorrhea, rheumatism, hydrophobia, aka rabies, jaundice, scabies, deafness, demonic possession, blood poisoning, obesity, scrofula, another word I love, venomous worms, and to introduce premature labor.
I don't want to, and we've got to be careful about castigating people here, but, these old-timey people lumping demonic possession and obesity with the potentially treated by the same chemical. That's
as diseases. The disease of demonic possession.
It's really not understanding a lot about the causes. I mean,
no, it was a simpler time.
Yeah, and it's just I've got a chemical. I'll use it on literally anything I can find.
And I love that it can induce premature labor, but also popular for inducing abortion.
Well, okay, I get the overlap there. Yeah.
And indeed, one of my other favorites, animal copulation.
Sure.
Use it with animals, make them root.
Yeah, exactly. And cure their obesity. And if your animals are possessed by Satan as well, cure 3 birds with 1 stone.
You get another animal, no more demons, and they're lean. Beautiful meat. 1903, the J. Liebig Company issued a trading card that showed Spanish flies being collected in the field and bottled for human use. So it started to become...
Oh, really? 1903?
1903, yeah. So actually people were harvesting them and basically bottling them up and ready to push them out.
And they were much more refined process in 1903.
Yes, it was science and the beauty of the industrial world. It's still used even in China and other countries as a folk medicine, elements of this beetle. In South Africa, I like this one. The Tswanas, they grind cantharidin-producing beetles into a powder. They use it in a medicine called Seletza, which, other than being an aphrodisiac, is also an abortifacient, renders people to abort, and for purifying the blood. This account ends with Seletza fatalities are relatively common. So that's not really a medicine. If it relatively commonly kills you, it's not a great medicine.
Look. Okay, no. Well, it is a medicine. It's just not one that we should recommend people take.
Cures you of living.
Well, that will solve the other problems as well.
That's true. He's not coughing anymore, is he?
No longer obese.
Yep. No longer obese. In the earliest 20th century, Burroughs Wellcome, and that is the Wellcome as in the Wellcome Trust guy, a major British pharmaceutical company, sold cantharidin for medicinal purposes in tubes of 0.3 grams and bottles 1 gram forms. So that's a shitload of it.
Yeah. What are they selling it for? All sorts of things?
Look, the main thing, I mean, I'll touch on this again, but the only thing that seems to be consistent is removing warts.
You hadn't mentioned that before. You hadn't mentioned that. I mean, now I'm convinced. Now I'm happy.
Now
with
you're
this
down.
thing. Yeah, my demonic possession is only slight, but I have intense warts. So
Well, and demonic possession will give you more warts than you would normally have. It's just one of the
exactly.
things. Demons love that shit. So as an aphrodisiac, so there's so many great quotes here from different sources. Ancient Egyptians and Roman gladiators used Spanish fly, quote, for group activities such as orgies.
Indeed. Thank you, ancient Greeks and ancient Romans, with your precise nature of describing your orgies.
Yeah, orgies, theatre viewings.
Yes,
you need it.
We are having
the Roman
orgy
Empress
tonight.
Livia slipped into the food of members of her imperial family so that they would commit sexual indiscretions that she could use against them later.
Thank you. That's nice.
But you can kind of see the logic of it. You know, you get people to do dumb sex things and then say, so-and-so, I saw you do that, make me more powerful or I will dob you in.
Oh no, I get the logic of wanting to catch people in the dodgy sex acts so that you can use it against them.
Yeah.
That's going a step further, though, to put the weird aphrodisiacs in so that they'll be compelled for it. Maybe that's what they did.
I'll just you wait.
Maybe that's what Putin did to Trump. Maybe it's
Spanish fly.
Yeah, Spanish fly with a bit of pee-pee tape.
Yeah, give me Spanish fly. Now I want you to piddle on the bed and maybe on me a little bit. Madame de Montespan gave King Louis XIV of France powders made of cantharidin and dried moles and bat blood.
Dried moles. Are we talking the little animal or the thing on your skin?
Yeah, not the skin stuff. Well, I don't know which is grosser. I think actually the skin stuff.
It takes a lot to dry a whole mole. Like I get dried moth. A dried moth, there's not a lot of difference, but drying a whole mole is going to take a fair bit.
And why a mole? Oh, that
funny.
with his beetle and bat blood. This is going to get the king frisky as hell.
The making up spells. Like there's got to be something there. Trying to understand. Okay, what sorts of wacky stuff did spell makers try and invent in 500 years ago, 800? Are they looking for the weirdest things?
Always. The weirdest thing, hardest to find, hardest to understand, because that means it must be magical.
And then do something weird to it.
Yep. Definitely do something weird to it. The next king, so now we've got Louis XV. Madame de Pompadour used to put Spanish fly into soap for him to try and get things a bit more, steamy with the king.
Okay.
And it seems it was so popular around Louis XIV and 15 time that there was a French playwright, Nicolas Racour de Grandval, he was from mid-16 to mid-1700s. So he wrote an erotic drama during the reign of these two kings, and he made reference to the beetle in his play Les Deux Biscuits, the two cookies. One was made of Spanish flies, the other, which gives strength. Hang on, where you go? Here's a French translation for the two cookies.
It's the Les Deux Biscuits. It said biscuits. I heard biscuits.
Yeah, I know. But it's translated as the cookies. That's an American translation. Two biscuits. The one was made of Spanish flies, which gives, again, strength to weakened lovers. In the other, dominated opium and poppy, which cause by their virtues deep sleep. So there's some...
I'm not liking where this is going.
Drama.
So someone's going to get horny and someone's going to get sleepy. This is not a great sex drama. This is
not a great. Well, it's a pretty good rape drama though.
Okay,
It's setting up for
drama. Yes.
Yeah, it's definitely setting up for.
It's not nice.
Bad stuff.
It doesn't sound nice. Why not both have the horny biscuits? Two people get horny biscuits. That sounds way better.
I got no problem with that. I think that's fair. Like, if you're going to do it, you might as well do it nicely. So, one of my favorite stories. So, in the US, as we know very well from this podcast and other things, people other than us have even said it. In the 1800s, it was real salad days for snake oil. We know this.
Yeah.
And often the perfect remedy cured an array of ailments and often had many, many different kinds of ingredients. And I love it was referred to as the blunderbuss formula. Stuff everything you can and just splatter it out. Often, of course, there are foreign origins of the ingredients because that made it more exotic.
Yeah.
And what was in there and how it was mixed was kept secret from consumers. So one Dr. Frederick Hollick had a classic one that probably contained Spanish fly, and he was doing this around 1840, 1850. And he wrote some classic books, and we need to acknowledge these: The Marriage Guide, The Diseases of Women, yeah, and The Matron's Manual of Midwifery. That was just three of his best books. No doubt an 1800s man would know all about these things. And he'd do lecture circuits around the big cities in the US, Baltimore, Boston, Cincinnati, New York, et cetera, et cetera. He'd give public lectures on Human Health and Physiology. And he acknowledged that in another book, or one of these books, sorry, that Spanish flies formed the main ingredient in all quack stimulants for generative organs, dicks and vagina and
I
stuff,
know. Yeah.
and that their misuse could result in severe physical problems. But he added, it's very seldom that cantharides or cantharides are of any service whatsoever in the treatment of impotence, spermatorrhea, which is involuntary ejaculation, or worse, kind of like an ejaculative leakage.
Oh, okay.
So that's better. There's your
Yes.
nocturnal emissions, but worse, just a constant kind of meh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know, it's wonderful. Spermatorrhea.
Yep.
But he said, so it's seldom that this substance was particularly useful to any of this stuff, but a combination of this with other kinds of things can be useful in certain cases. So he's very elusive, young Holick, Dr. Holick. He set out to determine, however, being a scientist, the correct combination of ingredients to make the really good stuff. So he tested, as he put it, common aphrodisiacs, for example.
How is he testing? I hear the word.
Oh, we'll get to that. You seem excited about this.
I know. I just worry. You know, you blend the words 19th century and testing and some sort of sexual thing. And
No, it doesn't get that bad because there's only so much I could read. You know, I'm only one man, but it was He tested the quote common aphrodisiacs, for example, compounds of Spanish flies, opium, strychnine, arsenic, phosphorus, plus numerous others, including exotics employed since time immemorial by, quote, Turks, Arabians, and Hindus, spelt with a double O.
Oh, yeah, that was the cool way to spell it back then.
Fuck yeah, still is. As he put it, for years I experimented with them in thousands of cases, both simply and variously combined, carefully noting their effects, and thus by degrees finding out the true value of each and how and when to use it.
Okay. Okay. So
his patient's got it.
Well, was he wondering, you know, how and when is he thinking, okay, this one is for like a special Friday night, but this one is for like, this is for a wedding anniversary. You're gonna want something really, you know, turgid or something really
tumescent. As he puts it, no one else, I really believe, ever went into this subject so thoroughly.
Thank you.
Or with such extensive opportunities for experiment and investigation.
Okay, cool. Opportunities with ethics here? Are we just double checking here?
Ethics.
You're
adorable.
Did he ask anyone?
My impression is no, but I'm not positive. My impression is no. I think he just sort of said, I'm going to give you this and it'll help you.
Yes. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's my impression.
But was it with helping with a problem that they had diagnosed? Like, are they saying, I'm
having a problem? I believe so. People
have
come and said, I've got an issue.
Okay, all right. So at least he's saying, okay, I have 50 things here. I'm going to try them one by one, and we'll see. Not. I've got a problem with my teeth, and he's like, I know what will help with your teeth.
You need to make your dick harder.
Exactly.
Take this poison. It'll be fine. Do you mind if I make notes?
Early 20th century doctors would very well have gone, well, I see other opportunities here. Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. No, and I think this may have been, we'll call it semi-scientific in his approach.
Okay.
But it seems like he had huge opportunity. This is the thing he mostly crows about. So he says, my lectures and my books made me so universally known in connection with this subject that cases of every kind came to me in abundance from all parts, and I was thus enabled to study practically what had been before only speculated upon.
Okay.
So part of the snake oil thing, he did his lecture circuits and so forth and said, I've got this thing.
Yeah, he's the Freud of low boners. So
yes, the Freud, the flaccid Freud. Although Freud handled no boners and too many boners as well in his own special way.
I'm sure he did.
Just tell me about your childhood. How do you feel about your mother?
That doesn't help. That doesn't help with boners.
That's Freud. Job done. So apparently, the doctor's laborious research culminated in the formulation of his aphrodisiac remedy.
Yeah.
And this is where it gets positively Trumpian. So in his book, The Male Generative Organs, he starts to promote a compound possessing, in all capitals, true aphrodisiac powers. He reasoned that since all aphrodisiacs he tested were imperfect when used alone, yet had gained a reputation and were eagerly sought, how much better they must be, basically, if I put them together.
Mix them up. Yeah. This is great. This you know, this is the one, not the 1 year old, the 6 year old, the grade 1 kid going, all right, mix them all together. Let's see what happens. Oh my God.
If one's good, 100 must be freaking awesome. Like all biology, the more the better. Everyone
Yeah.
knows that. You cannot have enough water. You cannot have enough oxygen. It's impossible. It's all good for you. So, of course, he kept the remedy's ingredients secret and the proportions that he used. But his remedy purported to contain, quote, 33 different substances,
Yes.
some so powerful that not more than the 100th part of a grain can be used at a dose, and so dear that a single grain will often cost from $2 to $4. We're talking 1800s, so $2 to $4 for a single grain.
But imagine this in this world. Imagine this time, and they're looking for a bit of snake oil, and
Yeah.
he's selling. Oh, there are some potent ingredients here that if I put too much in by accident, you are going to be out of control. Like, I have been gauging this so precise. He's using all this language of science to sell this snake oil. It's just, and this is a realm where snake oil has done so well over the time.
Oh, yeah. And look, it gets better because he was saying, look, so some of the remedies were the ingredients were so rare that he was actually worried that supplies would run short.
Of course.
So he would send agents out to parts where they were obtained and instruct them to regularly buy and engage all they could get. So he could make it impossible for everyone, and he told them this, to actually supply a proper aphrodisiac remedy because no one else could get the ingredients. So he really tried to corner the market on the special ingredients, which included our friend Spanish fly.
Yeah.
And then he started to, in 1848, he quoted excerpts of letters from people sent to him by his agents to talk about how basically good it was getting. So agents in Aden, Arabia, Assam in the interior of Hindustan, Huzhou in the Andes, Leipzig in Germany, so he was going out and about. Available as concentrated dry powder divided into graduated doses, the remedy could be carried unobserved in the vest pocket. Oh. So he'd get people to quote and talk about all the difficulties with the ingredients, etc. It was $5 a package, but that meant, of course, that it was really good because it was special and it was luxurious and only fortunes favored would be allowed to have.
I hate to say, but I'm believing all this stuff right now. I'm feeling.
You want some, right?
It's feeling artisanal, travelled, wonderful. You know, if you've travelled all this way, it must work really well.
It must. It sounds fabulous. And so, as evidence of the unparalleled benefits of the aphrodisiac remedy, he started to provide transcripts of people who'd done really well out of it, who took it and were cured of their various ills. Yeah. So one man, self-described as a mere wreck, too much broken and shattered to be ever repaired. He suffered from impotence and hatred of women, which were maladies he ascribed to uncontrolled masturbation during his youth.
Okay. Can we just try slow down a tiny bit? So impotence and hatred of women and uncontrolled masturbation in his youth caused
yes. He wanked so much in his youth that he could no longer do anything like that, and he didn't like ladies as a result.
I don't know if I think the hatred of women might be contributing to a lot here, and potentially I don't know if the chemical is going to solve that. No,
a 19th century incel would not be cured by that.
No, but
I agree.
It's brave of a 19th century person to recognize that. At least that's the first step, I guess.
Good for you. So you've seen the positive side. This is a person on a journey who is prepared to make that journey.
There he is, yeah.
So according to this person, owing to the restorative effects of the aphrodisiac remedy, the man eventually became, quote, the happy father of 2 healthy children and appeared younger by 10 years.
Hey, did he? Oh, that sounds nice.
It sounds wonderful. He said this, not only could this misguided young men like him experience miraculous cures with the remedy, capital R, elderly gentlemen could enjoy resuscitation of the sexual power. He also related a case of which was accompanied by a testimonial letter, so it's got to be real, of a man who at age 66 began a regimen of the aphrodisiac remedy for impotence and was subsequently still going strong 6 years later. I don't know if that means he'd actually been going at it for 6 solid years.
I don't think that's an advertising thing. No one says, and you're going to have a 6-year-long route. I mean, no matter... Even
we're back to our buddy near Orange, who's basically
no, that's not an advertising thing. Like, no one wants that.
And you were worried earlier about ladies. Well, look, as he says here, even barrenness in women caused by torpid condition of the genital organs, which prevents the absorption of the seminal fluids.
I just got to say, I wouldn't, whatever you are, 19th century dude, torpid doesn't sound nice to describe someone.
No.
So just slow down and use the words that they use rather than torpid.
But you're only seeing the downside. The upside was this condition, this inability to absorb the seminal fluids.
Cool. That's great.
Could be cured with Dr. Hollick's aphrodisiac remedy. See, that's the upside. He could fix it.
Well, that's
It's
good.
not just for dudes.
Yeah, okay. I'm great that he. Great that he is helping. There could be more welcoming ways.
Yeah, they could. And look, the Spanish flies, even recently. So Roald Dahl wrote a book in the 70s called My Uncle Oswald. I don't know if you've read it.
Oh, it's one of his adult ones. You don't read Roald Dahl's adult books. You read his books for kids.
I read it by accident a few years ago. Someone just said, "Oh, Uncle Oswald, it's hilarious," and I read it, and it's fucking outrageous.
Is it really?
It's basically, the gist of it is Uncle Oswald, who's a renowned fornicator. That's how he's described. He basically discovers the sexual invigorating properties of the Sudanese blister beetle, so a version of Spanish fly. Yeah. And his plan is basically to steal the semen of great men and sell it to women who want to have children and who are fathered by these geniuses. So many famous men feature in this novel where, as I remember it, he sends a woman out to basically seduce them, uses the Spanish fly to get them horny, and captures the sperm so it doesn't actually go into their bodies. And we're talking Picasso, Einstein, Rachmaninoff, Proust, all kinds of kings of various European nations, Monet, like you name it. He goes through all of them.
This is really different to Roald Dahl's other books.
It is, isn't it? There's no giant peach in this.
Yeah, no.
There's no BFG. Yeah, it's, and I didn't realize. I mean, I read it years ago, and I just thought this is outrageous. It's basically a soft porn, and
look, yeah, I don't doubt that he had the talent to write a story, and he thought about other things other than just what makes a 9-year-old laugh. But cool.
Oh, a 9-year-old. Some 9-year-olds might laugh.
I'm sure.
But look, in the end, nowadays, if it's called Spanish fly, it really isn't. So anything, and there is a lot of. I looked for research purposes. There are a lot of things telling you or selling themselves a Spanish fly out there on the intertube, etc.
Really?
But they're just not.
Oh.
And there's a good reason for that, because, and this is a great quote, canthridin, the substance, is as powerful as cyanide and has no antidote. It strips away the lining of your stomach. You bleed internally. As your kidneys struggle to purge the cantharidin, it inflames your urinary tract. It gives you what you think is an erection, but it's actually just severe inflammation.
What you think is an erection.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not an erection. You're actually so severely inflamed that, yeah. So it's highly toxic. It can be entirely deadly. And as was written even as early as 1686, so there was a Dr. Nicholas Venet wrote in the Tableau de l'Arme Conjugale, and was reprinted in the 19th century. He recounted the unfortunate experience of his friend who unwittingly ingested Spanish fly, which had been incorporated into a pate of pears on his wedding night.
Oh.
And the quote, yeah, I know, unfortunately incorporated. The quote runs, "When night came, the husband embraced his wife so much that she began to suffer exhaustion. But these delights quickly changed to misfortune, for the poor man began to experience the effects of inflammation by midnight, had the greatest difficulty urinating, and saw a discharge from his member. Fear augmented the illness, and he fainted more than once. Considerable care had to be taken for him until his health was restored." This shit's dangerous. It's really dangerous. And it goes on. So during the 18th century, Spanish fly was often used in sweetmeats, chocolates, and similar confections, cakes and cookies that were served in the best brothels around various Parisian other establishments. And a lot of the people who ate or drank it became very sick or died. Like, have some of this, and it'll make you horny and dead. In late 1700s, the Marquis de Sade and his manservant gave cantharidin-laced anise sweets to a couple of prostitutes in France.
Of course they did.
Of course he did, yeah.
Of course.
They began to have uncontrollable vomiting and died in agony a week later.
Great.
And his manservant was sentenced to death, but they somehow eluded authorities, and were later burned in effigy. That'll teach him.
Yeah, indeed.
Take that, you son of a bitch. 1869, a French military doctor had a bunch of soldiers come to him, and they complained of weakness, stomach problems, dry mouths, and aggressively persistent erections.
I would have started with that. Like if you say, "Doc, I got a dry mouth. Also, I got this raging boner that will never go away."
So how do you describe it? Aggressively persistent. It's true though. But I think they were doing like you do in the olden days. If you wanted to buy a porno mag from the newsagent, you'd get like you get a cooking magazine. You'd buy like a lottery ticket, a Playboy, and you kind of shuffle it in the bottom.
Of course,
I'm told friends of mine, not me.
Our youthful listeners will not understand what it means
Yeah,
to
buying a magazine
Yeah.
that had a picture of a naked lady.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, oh, so you got to, when you're going to the internet site, you got to pretend that you're going to
Safe search.
abc.com, and then
Yeah.
you're also going to specialboobies.com.
Special boobies.
know.
Look out, fellas. She's got 9. So the problem for these people was it seemed that they'd been eating frogs the night before, but the frogs had been eating the beetles. So they got it from eating frogs. That's another one of those. Sure, fellas, that's what happened. No. I didn't inhale. I didn't get drunk, Mum. I'm
It was the
15.
frogs.
Someone who was drinking and they spilt the alcohol on me. It sounds like a fib. This is one that actually caught my eye for this story to begin with, and I didn't want to go into huge detail because it's dreadful. But there was in London in 1954 an office worker. They emphasised because it's 1954 news. He was married, and he killed 2 women. He furtively placed stolen cantharidin crystals in coconut iced candies. So he worked in an area that sold chemicals.
Yeah.
And he managed to get his hands on the substance. And he put it in coconut candies.
Okay.
And he basically was trying to seduce one of the women. And because they had difficulty or they weren't interested, he gave them specifically.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
and
but that
they
does.
died, which is shit. He spent 5 years in prison, although apparently later on he and his wife ended up profiting by selling their story to TV, etc.
Oh, thanks TV. That's fucked. Seriously, don't profit off murdering people. But beyond that, it does show that this story up until 1954 and probably still is still spreading around. People are like, you get the Spanish fly. That's what you do. That's
I didn't dig into this. I only noticed it as I was ticking along. But allegedly Bill Cosby was a fan. Just BT dubs. So it's not been used great. However, talking about the poisoning, less terrible things. Let's talk about different deaths and suffering. There are examples of cantharidin poisoning all over the place, and usually accidental. So you've got one of my faves is a fisherman who was using cantharidin to try and make his bait more sexy to fish. And every source I see,
go Tiger. That's great. That's great.
I know he wanted to make his bait more sexy. He had a bottle. It seems.
Just slow down a tiny second there, and just remember that bait. It's about eating it. Surely the whole point of bait is the other fish wants to eat it, not have sex with it.
Well, maybe you can still hook them.
I am not a fisher person, obviously.
Yeah, if the fish is banging a hook, you could probably jag it.
Look, no doubt.
But this guy was he was putting the substance on the bait, and apparently he pricked his finger with a hook, and the substance was in a bottle, and he was shaking it, and he pricked his finger, he shook the bottle, and he got it on his finger, and he sucked his thumb, and ended up hospitalized.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty strong. You got another one. A South African male was hospitalized after drinking a back pain potion containing cantharidin, which is prescribed by a local medicine man. It's popular all over the world. Another goodie, a hippie at a gathering in New York City. A hippie gathering in New York City. A man was poisoned by consuming Spanish fly disguised as a metabolic stimulant. Mm-hmm. A woman who was dejected because she had, as they put it, romantic problems, attempted to commit suicide by ingesting wart remover that contained cantharidin.
You told me it did work for warts.
Yeah, it also works for trying to kill yourself.
Yeah, okay. All right. But she was ingesting it.
Yeah. And I love others have sickened or perished in pursuit of Spanish flies' imagined sexual effects, including Ferdinand of Castile, a curious medical student, and the best of the lot, and 25 Slovakians at an orgy.
Whoa. Whoa. What?
No, I have no more information on that.
No, you got to give me more information on that.
I wish I had it.
Oh my God, 20. That's horrible.
It's also just what a way to end a whole list of horrors. And there was Fernando of Castile, a curious medical student, and 25 Slovakians at an orgy.
Oh my God.
Fuck me, what a horror story. I mean, I really want to dig into that, but there was just so much. I mean, the stories I'm telling you are 0.1% of the insanity. It's just... It's insane. So, I mean, look, wrapping it up. Given all the shit that could occur, why the hell did people think it was an aphrodisiac? You know, when you think about all the horrors, all the stories. And so the bottom line is, look, it irritates the urogenital tract. It causes tingling and burning in the genitals. You get blood vessel dilation. The penis and the labia will engorge with blood. So some of the arguments are because it basically makes people more aware of their genitals.
It kind of works.
Yeah, it gets you focused more on your play parts and things go on. Of course, not to the point where you die from it. That's an issue. It can cause, of course, persistent erections, although this condition, which is not usually associated with sexual pleasure, the priapisms, can require surgery to correct. And if you leave it alone, if you don't treat it, these can basically damage all the tissues in the penis. And also, to be clear, a dose of Spanish fly large enough to cause priapism is usually fatal.
Mm-hmm.
So you basically get hard penis to death. It's been illegal as a substance since the 1800s, pretty much almost everywhere, except it still seems to occasionally appear in wart removal creams. So anything that says it's Spanish fly today is basically probably hot peppers, cinnamon, vitamins. It's just garbage. So it's super dangerous. It can be used by vets as a diuretic in animals, but if you get it wrong, it can really fuck them up. And horses are apparently really susceptible. I mentioned earlier how the bugs themselves are often on alfalfa and stuff. If there's a bunch of these bugs on alfalfa, horses will eat the alfalfa or the hay, and then it kills them in horrible ways. They bleed internally, basically, and then die. Cows and sheep are less susceptible for some reason. So basically, still, the main thing that's definite is it's good for warts and dermatological uses. But we're talking 0.7% in a mixture of this stuff. And it will blister the shit out of your skin. It takes a number of days to burn the noxious thing on your skin away, and you've got to be careful, and on and off it goes. And the last thing was they basically said, look, there may be some suspicions of therapeutic options for treating human cardiac failure because it's a vasorestrictor, so it changes that. And little head tips to possible cancer treatments, like absolutely everything in the bloody world. So really, in the end, Spanish fly is a bloody lie. Like, it is not an aphrodisiac. It's a terribly dangerous substance.
But it does something intensely.
It does.
When it works really intensely at what something sort of
You really know you've had some if you have it.
Oh my God.
And I think, look, the best way to wrap this up, the Roman poet Ovid wrote The Art of Love. And he gave a whole litany in this Art of Love, a whole litany of aphrodisiacs. And at the end of it, he said, prescribe no more, my muse, nor medicines give. Beauty and youth need no provocative. And others have said a similar thing. You should basically, a balanced diet, good health, etc. helps.
Oh.
And according to the sexual health publications I was reading, again, obviously for research purposes, aside from Viagra, really there's been pretty much zero solid lab studies on aphrodisiacs. It's one of the only few that seems to work. And they end like this. Sights, sounds, and scents within your reach are the best precursors for a romp in the hay. Nothing can compare with the sight of your partner's lips parted in a smile, or the sounds of those three words, I love you. Combined with a healthy dose of mind candy, your imagination, you're well on your way to a fabulous night of sexual exploration.
Thanks. Wow, that's wonderful.
There you go.
Style. That's beautiful.
It ended nicely.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So there you go. There's Spanish fly, sexual entomology, and the romping history of aphrodisiacs.
I feel somewhat better. I wasn't that disposed to use the Spanish fly in any of the ways that other people have, but now I'm less.
You're a fit man who knows how to say I love you.
Yeah, indeed. There you
So
go.
you'll be fine.
Make a nice dessert platter or something like that.
Exactly. Have some chocolate.
Yeah.
You look pretty.
Put on a nice TV show, and then
Yeah, I know. Watch a little episode of The Boys. Real aphrodisiac.
Indeed, as everyone says. The Wholesome Show is me, Will Grant, and him, Rod Lamberts, and no Spanish flies.
None.
No Spanish flies.
Stay away. Stay away from these things, people. Even if you're vaguely tempted.
This has been a very long public service announcement by the Australian National Centre for the Public Awareness of Science.
The public are welcome.